Good morning, everybody. I guess I accidentally went early because uh, I was responding to something in the chat and I pressed enter instead of clicking the send. So I guess I'm live. Good thing I saw that out the corner of my eye. But yeah, so it looks like it is just me today. Um, so yeah, uh, I was a bit caught unawares here. Let's go with the start with the top. Good morning, Trail Dust. Shane Lalone, Steve Parsons in first. What's up, Mr. Brunell? Bortagov, Mr. Whitney, John Brunell. I already said John Brunell. Insanity Forge, how you doing? Ben Toombs, what's up? So, just a quick heads up. I do have a head full of cottage cheese. I am still sick. If you guys remember last Sunday, let down that it's only Yamaz. Oh, bite me. And I'll just sit here and insult you guys all day. I don't care. Last week I had a cold, and it has developed into a full-blown sinus infection. I spent most of the week when I wasn't working in bed, and any time that I was upright, I've just got this entire side of my head is just insane pressure. I am on antibiotics and steroids, prednisone and doxycycline, and I have probably spent close to $100 in cold pills and cold pills and Tylenol and all that stuff. No, it's not the Rona. It is not the Rona. The doctor was a jerk too. If I may, I doubt he's watching. A doctor, I say doctor, he was a nurse practitioner. No offense to nurse practitioners, but this guy seemed to have a superiority complex, if I may share the story. Hey there, Jeff. Shane. Yeah, so I went in and it's talked to the triage nurse, and she basically asking my Roy will be here in a little while. Thank you, Roy. But yes, talking to the nurse, going through my symptoms and this and that, and getting my information cool, and then brought me in and sat me down, took my blood pressure. Here was a funny story. She hooked me up to the machine, because they don't do it manually anymore, apparently. Hooked me up to the machine and pressed the button and immediately started freaking out. And she goes, "Oh my God, your blood pressure is so high." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm chill." And she's like, "Oh my God, it is so high." And I'm like, "That can't be right." And she, like she wouldn't even tell me what it is, apparently, to not freak me out. And I go, "That can't be." And she goes, "I'm gonna take it manually." And she put a different sleeve on me and unhooked me from the machine and did it the right way with a stopwatch. And she goes, "Well, it's a little high." It wasn't. It was normal. And hey, Adam. And so that started the whole fiasco. And then she had me sit up on the only chair that makes a grown man feel like a toddler or like a Ben, swinging my legs. And then the nurse practitioner walked in, and he's, I guess the top guy at urgent care or whatever. So, feels like the big cheese. Put him in a hospital, he'd be running bedpans. No offense to nurse practitioners, but big offense to this one. He was kind of a smarmy ass. But Yeah, he comes in, sits down, and he goes, so what brings you in here today? And I go, I believe a sinus infection. And he goes, oh yeah, who diagnosed that? I'm like, well, I mean, I've had one before, a few years back. I'm pretty sure that's the same thing, pressure right here, pain, and, blowing out green mucus. Like, it's a sinus infection, you know? and he goes, you know, are you sure it's not corona? And I go, I'm pretty sure it's not the coronavirus. And he goes, how would you know? It's like, come on. I literally said to him, I said, what the, you know, and, and it's like, yeah, and then, proceeded to discuss it a little bit. And I said, listen, it's like, he's like, well, we can do this test, we can do that test. I'm like, I mean, and they're all tests for corona, shoving stuff down my nose or, blood samples or putting me into a breathing test thing. And I'm like, I don't need any of that. It's a sinus infection, and it's like, then he just kind of got up and left the room. And then he didn't say anything, just got up and walked out. And I'm like, okay. And about 5 minutes later, the exit nurse came in and handed me a packet, and and basically, it had the prescription on it. And I was hoping for some Vicodin for the pain, and it said, pain, Tylenol and Motrin, and with the stuff. And she left me at a desk that nobody was at to sign out, and behind with a locked door that I couldn't leave because they apparently lock you in there until you sign out, and like standing there for like 15 minutes. I'm like, I'm on the clock here, and it was just one of those. Finally, I got out. They let me out or whatever, and went and filled the prescription, and it's like, okay, I'm good. And it was just an interesting doctor's appointment. They still haven't told me what it cost, so I'm gonna be broke for a bit. Um, Let me see. This message. Everybody's yelling at each other. Insanity Forge. 2 lemons sliced up, 2 tablespoons nutmeg, ginger, cloves, cinnamon. Let simmer in 3/4 pot water until reduced about half. Strain. Drink with a mug with a few teaspoons of honey 2 times daily. It will help loads. Yeah, doctors don't like self-diagnose, but I mean, it's not difficult to diagnose something simple, and believe me, if antibiotics were over the counter, I wouldn't even have gone to the doctor, because it's like, I know what an infection feels like. But I will say this, I've been on this medicine now for 1.5 days, and I can feel the pressure subsiding. And it's like, okay, cool. But but yeah. So with that, also, I will also not be forging tonight. Or if I do, because I do have some random stuff that I need to do in the shop. It's basically working on handles for hammers. I might do a brief live stream very early today, at least a hello from the shop kind of thing. But it is my brother's birthday this weekend, and we are all going out to dinner. And I really can't miss it. So, so I will be not available this evening. I apologize for last week. After last week's show, I laid my head down right there, and I was just zonked, not, just out of it for the rest of the night, for the rest of the day. But But yeah, so with that, I guess that kind of falls under the what did you do this week, or how was your week? My week was crap. Oh, I will. I believe his birthday was yesterday, but I know he works, and I didn't want to bother him, so I'll just wish him happy birthday today. Um, I should get him something. I don't know, but yeah. Hello, Eric. Um, Whiskey, honey, and lemon works wonders. Yeah, I'll give a lot of that a try. I've got a yeah. The other thing about that, putting it on a reducer, I don't have a stove, so well, I suppose I could go to the forge, build, forge myself a pot or a saucepan, and I gotta see. Okay, so you guys know, every time I sneeze, it is like my head goes supernova, and I make weird noises. So I'm trying not to sneeze. Okay. Um. Oh God, this is gonna hurt. Anyway, um, uh, you know what I ought to do with rum? Put it in my sinus thing and just rum through. uh, but yeah, so yes, today's topic is treadle hammers, and I was hoping to keep it specifically treadle hammers because, in honor of, you may not have heard of him. He's a relatively small channel. Not a whole ton of subscribers, but he does good work for the community. Roy over at Christ Centered Ironworks, his tool of the year, this year is the year of the treadle hammer, and I think, and he is doing giveaways for his patented, or yeah, I don't know if he patented it, but his own design of a self-contained treadle hammer kit that you basically purchase from him. And yeah, Roy who? I don't know, some guy named Roy. He's a great guy, good friend. You can get these treadle hammer kits from him. I'm sure he'll be on a little bit later to go more into it. Um, and yeah, but in honor of that, and coincidentally, with our history this month, we're going to be talking treadle hammers. Now, in my research, and I did do a little bit of research, and it was hard. It was difficult because I couldn't focus. But treadle hammers are a relatively new invention. Treadle hammers, as we know them, are a relatively new invention, because what it is it's a tool. It's a hammer that you use your foot to simulate having a striker. And the idea of a blacksmith shop, a solo run blacksmith shop with no helpers, is a very new concept, because especially in olden times, um, being an employer was a big deal. Like, it's, if you could have employees, like, and blacksmithing wasn't like a hobby thing. It was a major, there's a word for it. There's a major, it was a major thing. Like, people, it was required. It was respected. People, wanted to be around it. People wanted to watch it. People would order things, would be around. So it was a business that was a necessity to life. So there was no shortness of having somebody who would want to be a striker, or want to be, just the guy sweeping up the shop, stuff like that. So there was really no need for a treadle hammer. And actually trip hammers back then, and such, because trip hammers, I believe, were the, uh, earliest things were, I want to say, the Han Dynasty in China, like early ancient China. And exactly, Speargrass. The striker was nearly a trade in itself. But you know, early trip hammers and what we would call a mechanized hammer, you know, a non-swung hammer, were used for way more than just smithing. They were used to for everything from crushing grain, processing grain, crushing stone into stone into smaller bits, crushing ore so that it can be smelted, softening this, all sorts of stuff, all sorts of stuff. Actually, tying in with this past month's subject, some of the earliest form of what you could possibly call a treadle hammer was called a walking hammer. I believe it was what it was called, a walking beam hammer, and it was actually used for driving pylons, among other things. But its main use was for driving pylons during construction, and it was used for in different forms for other things. But the way it is it's a beam with a weight on one side and the hammerhead on the other, and its natural position was up, and you would have a crew walking along the beam back and forth to boom, 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 so and I don't have dates for that. I don't have, I have a anecdotal recollection of a series of early Roman images or mid-Roman images, drawings of that happening. So that is not really. It's kind of like a footnote in history kind of thing. It's not even. I don't even think that aspect has been researched. But if you think about it, that is a very possible and very ingenious way to do things. Um, Treadle or treadle, either or. Um, and yeah, going into alternate, different types of hammers, early powered hammers or early mechanized hammers. I hate calling them powered because while yes, it is true if there is some form of powering it, it's a power hammer, but to mechanized being something other than the a human creating the force, be it a water trip hammer, a Da Vinci cam hammer, which either runs on kinetic energy and or water wheel or whatever. But yeah, the Da Vinci style cam hammer is basically a drop hammer, that is operated by a cam. Other ways were having a water wheel with little notches on the back that, its standard position was down, and then a wheel would come and pull it up and then trip it, pull it up and then trip it, Um, uh, but yeah, um, so yeah, in my research, treadle hammer, the history of treadle hammers, really, I think earliest I've seen anything on treadle hammers is in the last quarter century, and it wasn't even very common back then. It was like you know just there. I guess like, hey, yeah, this is something, and that would be, I believe, the Oliver hammer. I don't have pictures of it, but um, offhand, but the Oliver hammer is referenced as one of the early versions of a treadle hammer. Um, and when you really think about it, there's not much of a difference on what uh, on the design, because it is, if you really consider the treadle hammer, you've got two styles, and it's a very simple design. You've got the the swing arm, boom, where you're basically using springs and all that, and then you've got the upright where it's the same thing. It's just instead of pulling a sledgehammer handle up, boom boom, you are basically pulling a rod up to drop it down. you know um I have seen the bicycle powered one, but I saw it more. It was a Facebook ad for a treadle hammer for sale, and it was the guy wanted like $1,500 for it, and it was basically a bicycle cam hammer, and it was like, okay, yes, archetype versus inline. Thank you, Speargrass. Um, Give me a moment. I have to blow my nose. I'm going to turn my mic all the way down. Okay. Testing back. Okay, I should be back to normal now. Oh, so and of course the conversation of mechanized hammers would always run into modern day power hammers, and even by modern day, starting with the Industrial Revolution. That's what I would consider modern day, is starting with the Industrial Revolution, because the designs of power hammers, of the different styles, being the trip hammer, or the the wheel, what I have, the tire hammer, which is very new, but they're all the basic design hasn't really changed much, because it is in essence a very simple design with possibly minimal changes to its design over the past 100 200 years, if not more. um and yeah, going into the whole power hammers in one way, shape, or form have been around for a long time. Okay. Eric's got a great point to this conversation that is going on in the chat. They're talking about a bicycle powered power hammer, where somebody sits on the bicycle and runs and spins a thing while it does its thing. And Eric brings up a good point. A bicycle trip hammer, wouldn't it be easier to just use the second person as a striker? And Ben Toombs is getting all in a huff. So for those of you who listen to the podcast, I highly recommend you guys at least at once check out the chat to come in and join us laughing at Ben Toombs and his ridiculousness. I mean, I'm supposed to be the comedian for the show, but Ben Toombs just steals it with his ridiculousness. I love you, Ben. I'm just kidding. Um, but yeah, so there's a few videos and articles that I've read. I'll randomly, and this was up or even before I got we got the decision to do our history series. I'll watch random documentaries on ancient machines, and because I find that fascinating. And I remember seeing it was, I don't want to call it speculative, because it was based on proof, and it was like speculative concept designs and such, based on like proof of images found in scrolls and stuff from like ancient China, ancient Rome, all sorts of stuff like that. And I remember seeing depictions of these ancient power hammer stations powered by water, where it was like 6 trip hammers in a line on a big, alternating, like, that didn't, hit one, hit, boom, 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 and it's like all able to be run by water, and it's just, man, I see those and I get the, here's the fun thing. There's a creek, or, okay, there's a ditch on the other side of my property that runs from the street, and then it's like part of the canal that goes out to the sound, but it's not full of water. I think it would be awesome if I could dig that out, make that full of water, and I don't know. That'd be stupid, but get some jets or whatever, pump some water from the sound in there and make that a fast flowing river, and then make myself a big old, hammer. Let me see. Yeah, Ben's not allowed to swear in the chat. All right. So I can do this. Yeah. So as I understand it, Roy is doing his I'm a water guy. Yeah. Is doing his weekly giveaway, or monthly giveaway, doing his Treadle hammer kit. And that is the arc style, not the inline style, where he provides the plates and bolts and you provide a 2x4 and a hammer and an anvil. Yeah, as it was said in the chat earlier, the purpose of one of these is in modern day where, blacksmithing isn't as a crucial, it is more artisan than necessity. So you don't have a high demand, or you don't have a high pool to pull. Nobody can be as lucky as Roy and find a Thomas Goodemoot, Thomas Goodemoot's a power hammer in and of itself. But sometimes you need a striker, not just to work bigger things, but say you're doing some intricate two-handed detail stuff, and you need to hold the piece and hold a chisel or hold a tool over the piece and still have it struck. It allows the leg to essentially be the blacksmith's fourth hand. Later, Adam. Thank you. will be on in about 3 minutes. That is awesome, Roy. Yeah, Jeff. But yeah, so they become more crucial in the modern day shop than they ever were in history. And that I think is why I wasn't able to find a whole ton of articles or anything on them before modern, since the start of the Industrial Revolution. It's because think about it. You run a blacksmith shop. Do you spend both the footprint of your shop and the time and materials building a machine, or do you just grab somebody from the crowd, hand them a hammer, and be like, "Here, you're the striker," you know? And when everybody wanted to work and be a part of something like that, as was said earlier, being a striker was like a trade in and of itself. If you were a good striker, you can travel from shop to shop. Hey, I can offer, experienced striker services, and help you increase your productivity. Good morning, Oswan. And that is more valuable to the blacksmith than a machine that only does one thing, that takes up space, and when you're not using it, it's just there, and so really, yeah, it became a matter of necessity when you had to automate a job position in the, sorry, I got a sneeze building up again. This is going to hurt. Ouch. Good morning, Mr. Coffee. Can't hear anything? Oh. Hi, Mr. Coffee. Hey, Bill. Yes, trail dust. That is what I was trying to say, trying to get over, is they helped in a treadle hammers helped in a labor shortage, essentially, when you didn't have a Ben Toombs to be doing, forward flips with a hammer to increase his power and strike with the intensity of 1,000, black holes, like a comet coming down from the sky and striking the anvil, I would put Ben Toombs up against Thomas Goodemood as a striker any day, right, Roy? Good
That's
morning,
right.
Roy. Good morning, Roy. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, I believe they can. Audio levels seem good.
Right on. Right on.
So yeah, I hate to put you on the spot. I had meant to contact you way earlier in the week about this, and so huge apology on that. Just my head's been full of cottage cheese. Not
No problem,
literally,
buddy.
so nobody jumped down my throat. It's already bad. Um, but it was like, yeah. So the reason we chose treadle hammers is twofold, because it does tie into, that ingenuity of ancient civilizations, so to speak, although it's more modern ingenuity, and that innovation we talked about last week. And the
Hmm.
fact that you have called this year the year of the treadle hammer, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
I
So, where would you
figured,
like me to start on this conversation?
well, I mean, for right now, we're kind of talking. Do you have anything to add on the history of treadle hammers in your research and knowledge that you have in the blacksmithing field? It's like, I literally, that's, what I said is all I could find, is that they're relatively new, you know?
Yeah, the only amount of research I've done is just looking at old photographs and surmising what they were being used for. Some old video footage I've found as well. Like Westinghouse type
Mm-hmm.
video footage. I think you've seen on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um, and and from my experience across the years that I've been doing this, treadle hammers. The main thing I like to point out about treadle hammers is that they came out of a period of necessity. You covered this a little bit earlier. Where again, guys were going more into machining. They were going
Yeah.
more into mass production, things like that. That they were getting out of the local communities were getting away from relying upon, the individual smith or craftsman that could employ a whole bunch of people,
Mm-hmm.
and have for strikers. One thing I like to note about it that's important about the history of treadle hammers, a lot of people now have the misunderstanding that, a treadle hammer is just like a power hammer.
Right.
And therefore, like a power hammer, you should be able to work out big hunk and chunks of steel, and you should be able to draw stuff down to the finest of points, and it should work it down lickety split. And that is a bit of a
A
I don't
misnomer.
know. Yeah, a misnomer about treadle hammers. Treadle hammers were never intended for that purpose, whether it be the swing arc type or the more modern type of, an inline treadle hammer. They are just terrible at drawing out material. What they're there for is to work tooling when you don't
Mm-hmm.
have an extra hand.
Yeah.
And that's really what they were for, because, again, think about it. If you're a smith, you're used to working with a striker. All your tools are set up to work with a striker, which, by the way, a striker would be a swing arc type treadle hammer.
But you don't have to kick
You
it to get it
see,
to go.
yeah, exactly. You don't have to kick it to get it to go, or maybe you do. Who knows?
Thomas.
Yeah, yeah. So you see that, like, if you put yourself in them shoes back in the 1906, guy saying, nope, I'm going to go be an automotive guy. I'm going to go work on cars, these newfangled inventions coming around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be here, sweating it to the oldies, smashing hot steel with you anymore. Well, all your tools are set up. They're long, your punches, your drifts, all your full top tools of all types, flatters, fullers, those sort of things would all be set up to work with a striker. And now a smith needs a third hand, right? They need an additional way of holding material. And that's where you start seeing the advent of, actual treadle hammers coming into play, is
Yeah.
for those type operations. As far as drawing out, even with a striker, that's a long, drawn out process.
Yeah.
Excuse the pun.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And to go on to that misnomer, and that misconception of treadle hammers versus a power hammer. A power hammer, it delivers a blow at a specific weight and speed. Sure, you can, with modern power hammers, you can adjust that and go light taps, but with a treadle hammer, you know, it's how far you push it down. It's a lot more controlled. It's a lot easier to control. So if you've got your hands there holding a chisel or a top tool of some sort to do some work, you can kind of pretty much like set your foot down, line it up, and then lift up and boom, and then get it exactly where you want it with the exact amount of pressure that you need to make the mark be, say for this example, chiseling something, say you've got to split a piece of flat stock, down to do a double scroll or the double calipers or something, where you need to split it. And, under a power hammer, that would be wildly inefficient because you'd be bouncing all over the place. You'd be, just fighting it constantly. Whereas with a treadle hammer, you've got a lot more control. So
Yeah.
just like with a striker, you can be like, all right, light taps. I'm just marking it now. Okay, tap, 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 tap. All right, we've got it marked. Reheat, put it in. All right, give me a little bit stronger. It basically, it does what you tell it to do, just like a striker would.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, and
two
because
different
basically
tools.
you are being your own striker, because it is
Yes.
still, it's still under your own physical mechanical power,
Yes.
with your leg and things like that. So a lot of folks, you'll see it around. There's an online the online statement always goes, if someone's thinking about building or buying a swing arm type treadle hammer. This is another thing I'd like to say about this. You see it all the time. Someone says, hey, look, I've built this. It may be janky, a contraption, whatever, but it's a sledgehammer and it strikes onto their anvil. And people say, that's no good. You need to build an inline treadle hammer. An inline treadle hammer, is a very, very modern advent of treadle hammers. And if you're going to go through the trouble of building one, you're 95% of the way there to just having a power hammer. So, in which case you should just probably build the power hammer. It's going to save you from having to cut bars out. You won't have to fool around with springs, things like that. But the notion that having something on an arc, right? We think about things like, we want it to hit flat.
Not always.
You have to adjust your hammer hit angle just like your striker would. So it's only as good as how you adjust your setup for what you're doing. If you're doing mostly top tool situations, again, a Smith in 1900, he would have adjusted to the work that he did and what he needed a striker for at that time. If you're pulling tapers out on things and you do need it for predominantly drawing out material, you're going to set one up with 2 fullering dies, not 2 flat dies.
Right.
And that's where they're custom built on the cheap and readily made in your, in your shop. And if you look at some of the old like Sears and Roebuck like clippings and things of that nature for like the Oliver hammer, you mentioned that earlier. And some other treadle hammer designs, that is essentially what they're advertising for, is, you can set this up for, your specific operations in the shop. And I think some of that gets lost in today's modern interpretation of what a treadle hammer is. Everybody instantly goes to an inline treadle hammer as being the best, when that's not necessarily so.
Absolutely. If I may, and you kind of, I had always thought that the main difference between aside from the swing style, straight up and down versus the arc, between the arc and the inline style was shop footprint. That somebody who had a larger shop could get away with the easier to build arc treadle hammer, and somebody who had to consider the size of their shop and have a smaller footprint would swing, no pun intended, more for a inline to achieve the same goal of having a human-powered striker, essentially. And you said if you're building an inline, might as well go for a power hammer. However, if you consider a small shop footprint, I would like to have a power hammer for drawing out, and I'd like to have a treadle hammer for finer work, and you have the manufacturing skills, go ahead and do an inline, because it achieves the same goal of having, the ability to do detail work with 2 hands while you're, without a striker, where you can't really do that, or should not really do that on a power hammer, if the footprint, like say you're in a 10 by 10 shop and don't have a whole ton of room.
Well, so my personal thoughts on that is, as blacksmiths, we're meant to be little pseudo engineers for, our own, it's very common for blacksmiths to adapt their tooling to fit their spaces, to fit their work needs and things like that. There is no free lunch in the world of blacksmithing when it comes to it. I've heard the argument, I don't have enough space for this or that. Do you have enough space to stand up? Do you have enough space to swing a sledgehammer by yourself? You have enough space to put in a treadle hammer.
True.
So because the, say, an inline, you're not gaining any more space with an inline treadle hammer than you are if you're with a swing arm treadle hammer. Either or is dependent on how you built or you bought. Now, I will say the current inline treadle hammers out there, they take up about as much space as a 25-pound little giant power hammer.
Okay.
So footprint and width wise matters, right? Because you're keeping it from toppling over
Mm-hmm.
in most cases, right? So because it's a bunch of steel and it's all it's a top heavy item by nature. So the footprint wise is about like a 25-pound little giant is the modern inline versions of treadle hammers. Now,
Okay.
a swing arm hammer, depending on how you design it or how you make it, there's all sorts of elaborate rigs and setups out there. But you can shorten the handle of your sledgehammer. You can make it as short in the front as you'd like. Obviously, the trade-off there is you have less leverage, and so therefore you're not going to produce as heavy of a strike. So therefore, you have to increase the weight of the head of that swing arm the shorter your handle gets,
Right.
if that makes sense, to try to balance that out. But one of the benefits of a swing arc type, like in my design that I built, is that it can be very, very narrow because you're not supporting a bunch of mass above above your head, so to speak, right? It's not a super top heavy
Yeah.
thing.
And
So you
and I
could put it in
believe,
the corner of a shop, or you could put it on the opposite side wall adjacent to your anvil,
yeah.
right? And that way you can have your little striker on call or things like that. And there's a whole host of different design, everything down to the simplest. The simplest is a string attached to a sledgehammer that's pivoting and has a spring somewhere
Yeah.
in the equation, right? And it can reasonably hit your anvil with some sort of accuracy. So if you want to boil
But
down the treadle hammer to its absolute
footprint.
simplest form,
Yeah.
that's what it is. And so if you have enough room to swing a sledgehammer in your shop, then you have enough room for a treadle hammer.
Well, I will say this: soon you will be known as the Treadle Hammer King with your new design, because I believe it is so simple. I've looked it over several times. I want one so bad. One of these days, I'm gonna get it, and
I
I don't
appreciate that, Yama.
I don't have a wooden shop with 2x4s, so I'm gonna have to you know figure out and redesign and maybe build a false wall against my metal wall that will be able to hold it. But
Yeah.
you talking about footprint, and correct me if I'm wrong, but your design essentially being very slim, when not in use, can fold up essentially, strap everything up so that it's just against the wall, and then when in use, unpin
Yep.
some stuff, hook up the linkages, and you're good to go.
Yep. And that's his basic design. Actually, one of the people that have purchased the treadle hammer kit, he said he was going to make a plate. So he was actually going to weld up a plate to it instead of using a 2x4, and then he was going to put it on a piano hinge. So when he's done with it for the day, he can swing it and lay it flat against the wall.
That's
So because he was
ingenious.
in limited space in his garage, and the kit is light enough but sturdy enough to be able to do such a thing. So now it's going to lay flat against his wall, and only be 4 inches of a protrusion. So he can swing it out whenever he needs it, pins it in, and there you go. And it's on a piano hinge,
That's
and
ingenious. People
yeah,
often miss don't consider the strength of a piano hinge. They are extremely strong for being as thin and small as they are, because it's in
yep,
the many, many, many contact points per foot, you know.
yep,
So that's actually
yeah,
pretty ingenious. I like that. I might do
yeah.
that.
I personally thought that was ingenious because he doesn't have like a traditional stud wall. He has like a concrete wall in his shop, and so he was just going to anchor the one half of his piano hinge
Sure.
into the wall. and then the other
Sure.
half piano hinge would, that's what's the kit's welded onto, and he would
Sure.
have the ability to secure it, and then away you go. And that way he doesn't have to mess with pinning or unpinning anything, and laying it back up flat against the wall.
That's
So
brilliant.
which again I think's brilliant. I think that's cool. I designed that kit to work off of a 2x4, and the only reason why I did it off 2x4, I get that question all the time on the treadle hammer kit. I get the question, why a 2x4? Why not a 4x4? Well, simply put, a 2x4 fits with the thicknesses of the material and everything that I provide, which everything's cut out a 1/4 inch plate. So it's very robust, because I had intentions on building the heavy hammer upgrade that I'm going to be adding to it this year. So everything's super robust, but when you stack out all that material on top of a standard, uh, you know, sledgehammer handle, it actually works out to about a 2x4
Yeah, width.
in width. So
Yeah.
the gap, yep, the gap
So,
there.
so
So it bolts almost perfectly to a 2x4 because of the width change there. Versus if we did something like, say, oh, we need to mount it to a 4x4 post, you could do that. You could put it to a 4x4 post, but then that width would be wide, and you would end up having to come up with bushings or something else in between,
yeah.
the actual swinging portion. And I did not want to mess with bushings, and the more complex something becomes, the harder it is for people to figure out on their own to assemble,
You want it to be
and
easy.
and B, it costs more money, because now I have to kind of engineer the stupidity out of it. So this way, it's just like a simple, quick, and easy thing for people to put together. So then that's more man hours on my end, and then therefore, the thing
Also,
might become so cost prohibitive that it wouldn't even be worth doing, because there's other treadle hammers on the market at a
also,
better price point.
it follows my mantra for designing things or doing things at work, especially the PPOF, potential points of failure. Every connection, every additional piece is a
Mm-hmm.
potential point of failure. If you can make it as
Yep.
simple as possible and have as few potential points of failure, the better it can work.
Yep.
And so that kind of walks us through the thought process of your design.
Yeah. That's also a problem, though, right? So
What's
I try to strip everything back to its base elements. I like to keep things as simple as possible, without all the flash. But the problem with doing that, especially if you ever plan on selling something, is then you've made yourself a target for all the knockoffs in the world. Because
Yeah,
if it's just it's
right.
it's just very like, oh, well, I could do that with some 2 bits of string and a spring, and I'm good to go. Why would I buy your thing? And then your design gets bypassed right over. So so
Yeah.
sometimes you'll see needlessly complex designs, and that's why.
Well,
Because people are trying, like, well, but you don't have oiled bronze bushings in your
it
piece,
boils
and
down to
things
your
like that.
goals of creating the tool. And I will say two things to that. For one, it seems to me that your goal is to provide price a price efficient a cost efficient tool for the basic blacksmiths, and while providing, something that is easily accessible, and yeah, they could easily go and build their own based on your design, or they could just
Yep.
skip all that effort and buy one of yours, because the cost of all the
Mhm.
materials and the time building it and everything and all that is about what it would cost you. You've said, it's like your goal is to provide an option for those who just want to get to work, you know.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and the treadle hammer, the treadle hammer that I designed with it in mind for somebody who has a garage, they're getting into the craft, maybe they're older, maybe they're impaired of some sort. Yeah, my last live stream, I've been having
Mm-hmm.
problems with gout and plantar fasciitis in my feet. Um,
Yeah.
so I've been having issues with my feet here for the last couple months actually. And
Welcome
so
to old
so
age.
with yeah, welcome to that. It's kind of I've heard that it's my brother has it, my mom's had it, my dad's had it, so it seems like it's going to run in the family. Oh yay, right? But as you've seen, when I was sitting on a chair, I was able to operate the treadle hammer kit, right? I was able to still kind of forge and work and things like that, and that's predominantly what I designed it for. And it's not going to, you don't have to have a bunch of fancy equipment to put it together. You don't have to have, crazy drill presses and milling machines, and you don't have to have the best welder. You need no welder at all. You need 2 wrenches and a
Right.
spade drill bit to take and drill your 2x4 for your mounting holes.
Right. Right.
And that's basically it. Basic common found garage tools, and you should be able to take and put some mechanical assistance in your shop. And so the goal with it was to take and have it at a price point that is well below what everyone else is charging for a professional quality tool, but also be able to um, still make that quick, dead simple option for people. And it takes about an hour to put the kit together, you know,
Yeah.
and then, you're good to go. But of course, you can make your own out of, again, you need a sledgehammer that has a pivot point attached to the back of the hammer handle. You need a spring to lift it up into its striking position, and you need so you have to have a spring to hold it up and a string to pull it down to some sort of foot lever, and boom, you've got yourself a treadle hammer. Will it be
Yeah.
as robust as mine? No, but that's another cheaper. That can be even a cheaper option yet.
Yeah. I'd like to build a big old drop hammer in my shop where, just like a 500-pound round bar, big old weight with a freaking chain, and then I pull a lever and it goes, boom. Just why to open up my walnuts.
I've thought about doing a drop hammer in my shop because I got 32 feet to the peak of
I
the
I
roof in my shop.
know you could do a
I,
drop.
I I thought that would be interesting to do one of those old style beam drop hammer,
Yeah,
where they drop the beam and it's carried
yeah,
up by some tires. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, just for fun, not for necessity, you know. But go ahead and if you would like to in the chat, 'cause you can put up your link page to the treadle hammer, and go ahead and talk about whatever promotions, pricing, or events you have concerning it. You know.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure I know where to. I'm not sure if I could put up the link or not
Oh,
here.
are you on your
But I'll
phone?
talk about the. Yeah,
If
I'm
you're on
on
your
my
phone,
phone. So
I can pull it. I didn't. Okay.
yeah.
It is. Go ahead and discuss any promotions you might have. I believe me being a Bellows boy, I get 10% off if I were to order it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So any of my channel members, we do each tier of my channel membership of my actual channel members, they all get big discounts, and that's store wide. Depending on what your tier is the discounts that you get on any of the blacksmithing blanks that we sell over at blacksmithingblanks.com. That including all tooling as well, um, kits and all that sort of such stuff. And like right now, occasionally we'll run little specials. I'm actually going to add like a scratch and dent area to the website as well, because occasionally we'll get plate and it's been all gored up by forklift or who knows what. And so we're going to add like a scratch and dent section as well to take in, have severely discounted tooling whenever we do get plate like that and we've cut tools from it. And basically it's just surface defects that affects the finish of the actual steel. So that's some of the stuff that's coming up. As far as the treadle hammer, the full kit right now is $700. That's with the air assist. That's everything you need to basically plug it in to a 3/8 inch airline hose from your shop's air compressor, so you can run the kit off of air. And then it's more like a utility air hammer, a swing arc utility air hammer at that point. And so that's the $700 model. You buy the base model, which is just, the actual treadle hammer kit itself for $500. And then, we oftentimes will, throughout the month, we might do free shipping on stuff. Sometimes we do, 10, 20% off discounts, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always doing stuff. It kind of pays to hang around the channel and find out those things. We're over on Instagram and by proxy Facebook. We post about it quite regularly whenever we're running discounts or promotions or anything like that on those. So again, it's a nice, it's a middle of the road option, right? It's more than what a home hobbyist can build in their own shop. It's slightly better than just a hammer with a spring and a string, right, that I described earlier. But it's not the full Monty where it's this fully machined
bells
out
and whistles
thing that get with everything and its brother that now makes it cost $2,500.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
so it's that middle of the road option for guys that they do have enough money to spend on say an anvil, or say again right in that $600-700 range, right? That's what maybe 2-3 paychecks worth of savings, maybe who knows, maybe 2-3 months you could save up to that, versus something like a power hammer or something of that craziness where it's $5,000 and you got to take out a loan or second mortgage on your home or
yeah.
or
When I was
whatever for. So
I've been looking up some pricing for some machines in the shop for my dream shop that'll happen once I'm a crypto millionaire. And just pricing out some presses, and even like the some the cutout plasma tables. It's like, those are, unless I go with the Langmuir system, that you got, there are some crazy prices involved in some of this stuff. And it's like, but
that's one thing I hope with the plasma bed and doing these blanks and stuff and offering more tooling. I'm hoping to be at a price point for folks and be a asset to the community, and make it to where you don't have to take a chunk off of, unless you want to. If you want to get into plasma cutting, go right ahead. But if you don't want to have the learning curve, and I want to be at that stupid simple price point where it's like I can't make it for that. So that's where I ideally would like to be. I'm not trying to be where everything's going to cost you $1 million if you purchase it from my shop, that sort of deal. And and I'm really just hoping to shake up the market, right? Because for far too long there's only been the big guys, and that's it.
Speaking of which,
what they offer.
After the show, if you give me a moment of your time, I have a commission that I need to discuss a portion of it with you. I might need your assistance on. And this one is a for sure thing, not like that. It's already pretty much ordered, just not the details flattened out. Unlike that last one we discussed, where I kind of just got too busy to even talk about it.
That's fine. We can do that.
But so if y'all are interested in getting a essentially ready to go kit with all the parts needed to have yourself a basic treadle hammer kit, and you're not an old fogey like us, don't need the air assist and all the fancy bells and whistles that, come with only having to tap something and let the machine go. 500 bucks gets you a pretty well designed tool for your shop. And
Yep.
keep an eye on that page too. I've bookmarked it, because being a channel member for Roy, I'm privy to some of his ideas that he runs by the members in the community page, and some of the stuff that he's putting up there, it's pretty cool ideas. Like he's got right now on his page, he's got the swedge block stand, which I might look into getting, because mine's just a couple of 4x4s strapped together. I like your swedge block design.
Well, thank you. I've got some real cool stuff coming this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm investing this year. We have about 120 new blank designs that we'll be releasing.
Right.
For like hooks, bowls, ornaments, that sort of thing. We've got that to do this year. We've got 120 of those.
I still say you offer letters.
Oh, that's part of them.
Yes.
House numbers is going to be part of those things that we're going to be adding to the shop this year. But then I'm going to work extra. My personal goal is to work more on the tooling end of it, because
Cool.
there is a stigma around blacksmiths and using blanks, but that'll be a whole nother topic for another day.
Yeah.
But
I believe we've gone over that as well here in the show.
On the tooling, yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Once before my mini rants.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll also be releasing a lot of tooling. So the heavy hammer upgrade to the treadle hammer, because again, the whole kit is modular, and it'll have a 42-pound head to it, is the way the math works out for that. And then so a heavy hammer upgrade, and then also a air cycler to basically turn it into a fully mechanized kit where
you flip a switch and it moves.
Cycling. Well, yeah, when you step on the air pedal, it starts cycling the hammer, and that way you don't have to one foot, one tap per blow. Instead, you just step on the foot pedal, and the more air you give it, the harder and faster she swings.
Cool.
So,
that sounds. I have been so busy with work, and I keep saying it sounds like an excuse, but like I have been so busy at work, my blacksmithing has kind of taken a back seat lately, and it's like I am just dying for, as much as horrible as it sounds, I'm dying for our, work hours to drop below 20 hours a week so that I can spend, energy out in the shop and get stuff done so that I can actually be a blacksmith again, like, but, yeah, it is amazing to hear that you are, moving forward and pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and just building and building and going. I mean, just the fact that you were able to hire an employee last year is amazing, Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Like it's awesome to be able to do that. And I couldn't do that without the community support, everyone who's supporting us through, purchasing of the blanks and the tools and the things like that. So it's kind of all, hand to mouth, right? Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't exist without everybody out there. So
yeah. Well, with that, I say we can, unless you have anything more about your treadle hammer, we can move on to our final thoughts for the show.
Yeah, I think I've shielded enough on this stream.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's topical. We chose the topic because you're doing like, I didn't personally choose treadle hammers. It was chosen because it's topical to our discussions of this past month, and it's topical to what you're doing in the community. So it works out very well. And I would not ask to have you on to discuss treadle hammers without bringing up your treadle hammer. So
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the chance to shill it.
absolutely. So do you have anything to tell the community or let anybody know final thoughts wise?
Yeah. So for my final thoughts on the subject of the treadle hammers, whether you choose to buy, build, or uh, or try one out first, keep your expectations for what a treadle hammer is. A treadle hammer is meant to, give you back that extra hand in the shop. A treadle hammer is not a power hammer. It's not meant for working down 2-3 inch chunks of steel. You're going to be into $15,000-$20,000 power hammers if you're looking to do that. So keep that in mind in your expectations. No matter whether you buy an inline treadle hammer, you buy a swing arc from somebody, you build your own. That's what they're meant for. They're meant for working top tools under. They're meant for doing light or small drawing out operations, things like that. And it's not so complex that you can't build your own. So definitely, I welcome anybody to try build their own first, and give them a try. You never know whether you like it or not, and and give multiple styles a try. And then on just final thoughts in general for the community, I just like to say thank you for everyone who does support us. Thank you for supporting Yamez by watching the stream here on the Blacksmiths Church here. And community YouTubers can't do it without community support. And just a little bit goes a long way from
Yes.
everyone. Whether you're liking, watching, sharing, right? Subscribing is still huge, any of that, no matter the size of the channel, matters greatly on YouTube to keep having these things and be able to have these interesting discussions. So I really welcome everybody to do that, and I thank everybody for that. And then, my last and final thought, as I've got plenty of thoughts, I just want to let Yamez know, as a gift, this year I'm going to personally send him a treadle hammer kit. So
Oh,
free
you
of
don't have
charge.
to do that. You don't have to do that.
No,
I
no, no,
appreciate
I
the hell
want
out
to.
of it, but
Yeah.
thank
Nope,
you.
nope, nope. I want to, and then you can give it a try. Give it a try in your shop, and see if you've can make a permanent home for it or not.
I have an idea where I'll put it too. Awesome.
Good. So and that
Awesome.
and so that rolls it up into the 11 other treadle hammer kits I'll be giving away this year. This is the year of the treadle hammer kit for at Christ Centered Ironworks, along with a ton of other great tooling as well. During our monthly giveaway live streams, I'll be doing again one treadle hammer kit a month. I'll be giving away, and that's the base model treadle hammer kit, and then a whole lot of other great tools and things like that. So I hope you guys will come join us,
Yes.
and that'll be it. I'll shut up now. God bless you all, and have a great day.
Thank you, Roy. So yeah, my final thoughts, huge thank you to Roy. I was not expecting that. You didn't have to do that. Thank you. Huge thank you to Roy for showing up and discussing treadle hammers with us today. Unfortunately, Sully could not be here. Sully's at work, so press F for Sully. And as usual, Adam is on his off week right now. But as Roy said, huge thank you to the community. Couldn't do it without you guys. Couldn't do it without my co-hosts, even though they're not here. Amazing to have, people in my circle that are there for me. It's just great. I mean, just love it. And I want you guys to all be safe and, as usual, be innovative and, creative. Get out there and make something that hasn't been made, or make something that's made 1,000 times again. So you all have a wonderful day. I hope to do a brief live stream, probably midday. Well, it is midday. I hope to do a brief live stream out from the shop at some point. But again, I have some stuff going on this evening. So if I do not get out to it, I will do something really cool next week, I hope. So, yes, with that, get out there and enjoy your Sunday, everybody. That's a big recommendation. Okay. You guys have a great day. Bye now.
Take care, everyone.